Okay, well, you join us here on the start line on Southend Pier as the boats are gathering in front of us, ready for the start of the Clipper 2013-14 Round the World Yacht Race. And we're joined by Sir Robin Knox-Johnston, the chairman and founder of the Clipper race. So, Sir Robin, the 9th edition of the race. Tell me a little bit about what we're watching here for those who are not familiar.
Well, what we're watching is all 12 boats, new boats, all manoeuvring ready for the start. Now, the start line is between us and those big oil tanks the other side. You can see a little rib in the way.
Yes.
And they must not be across that line or they get penalised. But at the same time, you want to be almost on that line as the start gun goes. So timing is vital. It's the first time they've done this, so I suspect they will be a little cautious because the penalty for being over the line is horrendous.
Yes.
That's deliberate. But they'll be all manoeuvring. This is their first race together, proper race as crew. First time they've actually been up against all the other boats for real, and it's just fantastic. Excitement will be on board will be just phenomenal at the moment as they get up. Well, there's Garmin turning. You see she's got herself up close for a good spot. Just looking up. Yep.
Now, this is a long race, 40,000 miles, 16 races. This first one, something of a short sprint to Brest in France. But what is the significance of getting over that line first, even on a long race? What is the significance to the individual crews of getting up there and timing it just right?
Jonathan, you're in PR. Jonathan, you're in PR. First across the line gets the publicity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's right. And also, it's a great fillip for their morale. Say, yeah, we were first across the line. There's an excitement, a buzz, the crew feel, yeah, we've done well.
Yes.
It's a good start.
Absolutely. And so we've got 12 brand new 70-foot boats. Just tell us a little bit about these boats.
Well, the boats are brand new, designed by Tony Castro. They're in line with what is going on in round the world sailing now. They're very, very quick, very fast, but safe. Designed really for the big oceans, Southern Ocean, North Pacific, where you can get waves of more than 27 metres in height. But they're also designed with, bearing in mind the fact that the crews are not professional sailors, they're amateurs. Now, we give them probably the toughest 3 weeks of their lives in their training.
Yes.
But this is to make them safe. I'd rather they went to sea and said, oh, it's easier than the training, than go to sea and said, oh, training didn't get us ready for this. So we make the training tough deliberately to get them prepared for this. And all of them have to do that training. No one is allowed to evade it, because it's all about safety at the end of the day. The essence of good seamanship is safety, and we are very safety conscious in Clipper.
Yeah.
We take a very professional approach to that. So as a professional skipper, crews are amateurs, all walks of life, 18-year-olds to 74-year-olds. What we're interested in is not their age, it's their enthusiasm. And if you've got the enthusiasm, you can do anything.
So what's likely to be going through the minds now of the skippers? Because we have professional skippers on each of these boats. So, you know, they're also very competitive together with their teams. What are they trying to do as they move up and down here, getting the measure, I guess, of the wind and trying to get it just right for the start gun?
If I was a skipper right now, and I suspect they're all doing the same thing, I'm watching my watch to make sure I can be as close to that line as possible when the final start gun goes, because that's what you're aiming to do. And that's the challenge to a skipper. Any man who races a boat wants to be on that start line as the gun goes. Not over it, just on it. If you can be a second short of it, you've done it well.
Absolutely. And the tradition here of the guns and the countdown, well, I think the next gun is going to be, what, a 4-minute gun, is that correct?
That's correct. This is standard, I mean, this is international. We do a 10-minute gun, a 4-minute gun, a 1-minute gun, start gun. And the guns actually aren't the signal. It's the flags that are the signal. And this goes back to the days of sailing ships when the gun was used to tell people I've hoisted a signal.
Yeah. Shall we just step back a bit and watch this gun actually go off here? So, a loud gun. It draws her attention to the flags, I take it.
Well, that's exactly right. The flags are the signal, and those guns just draw attention to it. But in fact, the distance they are, they won't probably hear the guns,
yes.
and the wind's blowing the wrong way as well. But they'll all be timing, they'll all have watches on, clocks on, may even have one of their crew just counting it down for them, listening in on the radio to the signals that Justin, the race director, is giving them. He's telling them what's going on. So it's all tied in to just get it timed properly.
Yes.
And I'm just going to have a look. Yes, not badly placed, although some of the distant ones, if I were them, I'd be now making my way up here.
Yes, yes. And the race itself, when you established this race back in 1995, what gave you the inkling that there would be a thirst, an appetite for being able to do this?
It was putting an advert in the papers, really. I'd been climbing in Greenland with Chris Bonington, and he told me how much it cost to climb Mount Everest. And I thought, that's a lot of money, £40,000. Woo! What's the sailing equivalent? It's circumnavigation. But how much it would cost if I laid on a boat and a skipper and trained people, fed them and everything else. On the back of an envelope, I worked out about just over half the cost of going up Mount Everest. So I put an advert in the paper and got 8,000 responses, and I thought, there's a business here. And having launched it, I better go through with it or someone else will.
And now I think over 3,500 people have actually experienced the race. What has that meant to those people and to the people who have an appreciation, I guess, of sailing?
It's not just sailing, Jonathan. They come back having done something special with their lives. They've done something extraordinary. They come back with that greater self-confidence, self-belief. And they also come back, as it happens, being extremely good sailors. But it's their personal character change that is interesting. The thing I watch is the beginning and end, and look at the change in people. And an 18-year-old student who does this,
yes.
He's 24 when he gets back a year later, in maturity terms, because he's learned so much. He's worked with older people, talked with them. He's been on foredeck with a CEO of a company and realised, I'm as good as him. I can do this job as well.
Yes.
That's why we've got the youngsters from the townships in South Africa here.
Right, so we've got now the
1 minute gun.
1 minute gun. Let's just stand back.
I have to say, 1 minute gun, I'd be a bit closer to the line by now.
So it's really getting competitive now as we get these boats trying to get for the line. And I guess that the problem is if they cross the line too early, then there's penalties and problems.
A horrendous penalty.
Yes.
We hate people being over the line. They can avoid it by going back round the pin end, which is the rib.
Yes.
And if they go around that, then they don't get the penalty. But of course, that's quite a big disadvantage.
Fine. Well, I think now we'll concentrate our pictures on the boats. And thanks to Sir Robin for joining us. And as we're looking out here, we can see Garmin, Team Garmin, heading for the line. Behind them, further out, one DLL. Countdown to the start, coming up now. The Clipper Race 2013-14 edition, the 9th edition of the race, is officially started. And the boats are now coming up to the line. PSP Logistics, Garmin and one DLL are the boats out front. Great Britain closely behind, looking at about 4th position behind the other boats at the moment. Spinnaker going up, yes, on PSP Logistics. Be interesting to see that going. Great Britain's got the Spinnaker up first. That'll give her a boost. Looking at the line now. So PSP Logistics now got her Spinnaker up, Garmin through. And we'll try and get a word with the race director in a moment to see those first over the line. I can just ask the race director to come over, if that's okay. We're going to be joined by Justin Taylor, the race director for the Clipper race. As we're looking out here, is an official word then on who was across the line first?
Well, it's going to be PSP Logistics, but he's just had a little bit of an error with his asymmetric kite there. It's come detached from the bowsprit, so he's going to be cursing there. Garmin have got a good start there just with their head sail. I think they're flying a Yankee 2, which is their medium-sized head sail, their workhorse head sail there. So he's doing quite well, but he will be overhauled by Great Britain that are coming up behind with their Code 2 asymmetric with their logo on it. And 1DLL down there at the far end. They've just crossed the line. So at the moment it's PSP, Team Garmin, 1DLL and Great Britain, followed up by Switzerland and Jamaica. They're all going for a bit of a conservative start. There was an I flag in force for this, which basically means if they're over the line on course side, then they will be penalised and they'd have to return back round to the non-course side of the line. So it was a conservative start. I think they're being conservative because it is a marathon. It's 40,000 miles. So yeah, all in all, that's an outstanding start from my point of view.
Now you've been there, you've done that. What's the adrenaline like at a start, particularly the start of a round the world race?
Well, ocean racing is, there's long periods of sailing on one tap, punctuated by moments of extreme, shall we say, adrenaline, and this is certainly one of them. You can't get more adrenaline than you have at a start. You're manoeuvring a 70-foot, 35-ton racing yacht around, and yeah, they're adrenaline behind. There'll be a lot of excited people on board these yachts.
Yeah, and we see Switzerland now just passing us in front. First entry for the Clipper race, a Swiss boat, and also Vicky Ellis, the third female skipper in the history of the Clipper race.
Yeah, it's always in a minority female skippers there, but I think she's going to do well aboard Switzerland there, sponsored by the Swiss Sailing Federation. So yeah, we've got high hopes for her. She's doing quite well. There's fifth there, so yeah, and she's going quite well. I can see them on the foredeck preparing the asymmetric to go up. So I should imagine she's going to go into top gear quite soon.
And behind that, Pete Sterling and Jamaica Get All Right. Second time Pete's skippered a Jamaican entry. So what do you think his prospects are in terms of his experience?
Well, you'd think because this is his second time that his experience will pay, and undoubtedly it will. I have high hopes for Pete. I've raced against him. He's a great skipper. He's a great race skipper. So coupled with that and the experience he's got, if he can pull his crew together, which I'm sure he can, then they should have a pretty good result.
And Derry Londonderry and Qingdao in front of us, both with spinnakers up now, moving quite well through the water, making ground on Henry Lloyd. So we've got Derry Londonderry returning to the race after a debut in the last race, promoting the City of Culture this year, and now joining the race for two further races to build a legacy from that whole event, and another excited crew aboard there, and homegrown skipper as well, Justin.
Yeah, Sean McCarter from Derry there, as you say, he is homegrown. He's got a great racing pedigree. He's going quite well there against Qingdao. They're very evenly matched, and they're just about to overhaul. Both of them are about to roll over the top of Henry Lloyd, who's not flying his asymmetric kite at the moment. I think they're all going to have to get their asymmetrics up if they're going to stay in contention here.
And Gareth Glover, the skipper of Qingdao, he was skipper of New York in the last race. Again, he brings experience and understanding. How much of an advantage is that, given the nature, the changing nature, I guess, of conditions?
Well, so much does depend on the crews, and we do evenly match the crews. And yes, their experience it does count for something, but I think overall it will be just how a skipper does pull together the crew and builds on that teamwork and the crew work and gets the work rate out of the crew.
Having a look at the tail end here, is this Old Pulteney just setting up the rear here?
Yeah, that's correct. I can see Old Pulteney just coming down here. He's I'm just wondering whether maybe he's had a gear failure or something like that, because he is going quite slow compared to the other boats. So he's got a very conservative sail plan on there. I can't quite see what's happening on the foredeck, but it does look like they're going for their asymmetric. But he seems to be quite far downwind. I can see his head sail just in the lee of the mainsail, which so it's not quite full. So I think he may have some kind of a gear problem on board.
And as we're looking now at the boat starting to head off into the sun ahead of them, what's I don't know the challenge of this sprint down to Brest?
Well, a sprint to anywhere it does bring its different challenges to a long ocean race. I should imagine the skippers and the crew are not really going to get much sleep at all. They're going to be on it all the time. They're going to have to trim their yachts all the time, and that's including not just during daylight hours but also at night. And it would be these kind of actions that will pay dividends. Even 1/10 of a knot faster than your competitor will work out to be 2.4 miles over the course of a day. We're expecting them to be out about 3 days. So if you're just 1/10 of a knot faster, then you can potentially beat your nearest rival by 7 miles on the water.
Asymmetric's half hoisted. Seems to be jammed.
And we just see Old Pulteney there bringing up the rear. They did seem to have a problem there just with their asymmetric jammed. But he seems to, he's got it at the top of the mast now. He just needs to sheet in and get that sail full, and then we'll see him accelerate off.
And for the teams, as you say, they've gelled over maybe a period of months, and their training comes together at the last stages. But I guess it's really when they get into real racing conditions and the pressure of that they really start to learn what it's like to have to perform as a team under pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to recreate conditions as much as we can. It's difficult to replicate that unless you are sailing. So yeah, those stresses and those strains will start to tell. But they're at the bottom of a learning curve at the moment, and they will rapidly rise up that learning curve. And we will see performances, we will see speeds, and we will see better results across the fleet.
Yep. So Old Pulteney now fully under sail almost with her spinnaker, still struggling a little bit, I think.
Yeah, she's just. She'll just sheet it in a little bit more. She'll drop the head sail. You can already see that she's stepped up a gear. You can already tell that the boat speed has increased quite dramatically.
So this first leg, it's made up of 2 races, the first to Brest and then the first ocean crossing of this race across the Atlantic. What are the challenges of that crossing to get to Rio at the other side?
Well, there are many challenges. If we start what the environment is going to throw at them. They're going to be going out into the Bay of Biscay and just on the continental shelf there. So, that's quite notorious. So hopefully there's not a huge westerly blow coming in there when they leave. But then, of course, they're going to start heading down south and into the doldrums. Actually, before that, they're going to try and pick up the trade winds. So they will head south before they start heading a little bit west. But as they get to the equator, or just north of the equator, they will be experiencing the doldrums. So they're going to have plenty of breeze, then they're going to have no breeze. That can be quite frustrating. They're going to have to pick a point on the equator to cross the doldrums at their narrowest point. And that's where a lot of gains will be made, and also a lot of losses will be made. And it will be the first ones that get spat out the other side into the southern hemisphere that will probably go on to do quite well in this leg. But the other challenges that are involved are also the living conditions and the living challenges. There's not going to be a lot of sleep going on board. They're going to be in watch systems. Sleep deprivation is quite difficult to overcome, but they should get into the swing of that. And then, of course, there'll be the whole issue of food. And generally, when you settle down into a long ocean race, as well as sailing the boat, which is we take for granted, is actually their life will revolve around getting enough rest and sleeping, and also what's up for dinner next.
So as they're heading off now, they're into quite a busy shipping channel to get down towards Brest. So I guess quite a lot to think about as well as being competitive and fast.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of navigational errors. There's not errors, but obstructions and stuff out here in the Thames Estuary. It is one of the busiest waterways in the world. We've already seen a few merchantmen passing by, and in fact, I can see one now coming in the main Prince's Channel through the estuary. Yeah, there's lots of sandbanks out here. There's shifting sandbanks. This is one of the reasons why we didn't want them racing at night through here, and why we're starting the race this early in the morning.
Great. Well, just to remind people of the lineup of the 12 boats. One DLL, the blue boat, we saw early contender for the line. Skipper Ollie Cottrell, Bermudan-born, UK. And through the course of the race, 16 employees from DLL who competed around the world to join the crew on there. Qingdao flying those very bright colours from China. They hosted the sailing in the Beijing Olympics. The race had a long history with them. Basically helped them develop their marina, getting ready for that participation in the Olympics, a test for the facilities, and are a big part of their legacy for the Olympics. And as we heard earlier, Gareth Glover, a veteran from the last race on that. And also Vicky Song, a Chinese woman, will be sailing the whole race, and if she completes that, she'll be the first Chinese woman to circumnavigate the world. Great Britain, skipper Simon Talbot, also very competitive, looking for a good race, inspired by the books of Sir Robin in his early days. That boat flying the flag, if you like, for Great Britain and its partners, Land Rover, Arm Holdings, Grange Hotels, Warranty Direct. So they're all behind that and be flying the flag for business around the world, as well as hoping that team, of course, do very well in their campaign. Switzerland with female skipper Vicky Ellis. They're looking for a good race. Switzerland, a country actually with a strong sailing history and pedigree, and that boat also being supported by Mercy Ships, an organisation that provides medical care on a hospital ship, particularly around the coast of Africa. Henry Lloyd following up, suppliers of the technical clothing for the race under Eric Holden, a Vancouver-based sailor, meteorologist, supporting the Olympic team. So he should certainly not be making any mistakes in terms of reading weather. Invest Africa, interesting boat there we have on board there, part of a tag team of young people from the Nelson Mandela Foundation called the Sapinda Rainbow Project, and they're looking to carry the message of building a legacy children's hospital in South Africa as they travel around the world. Derry London, Derry Dar, they also looking for a good race, representing the city of Derry Londonderry, also the city of Kochia under Sean McCarter. Then Team Garmin, following up under Damien, an Australian skipper with a lot of experience. He hopes to put into practice for when the fleet participates for the first time in the Rolex Sydney Hobart race. PSP Logistics, who got over the line with a little bit of a fumble, doing very well. And then Old Putney, now sort of getting underway, catching up with the fleet thick and fast, under Netherlands skipper Patrick van Zijden. Then Mission Performance, our 11th boat to mention here, under Matt Mitchell. They're looking for a good race. And also then Jamaica Get All Right under Pete Sterling. So that's the lineup of 12 boats. We can see them heading off, 40,000 miles ahead of them, 16 races, 6 continents, and they will not return to UK shores until July in 2014. So, Justin, as we see these boats head off, we've got about, 250 crew across the boats in this first race. There must be a lot of adrenaline running, also, I guess, mixed emotions, leaving family behind, but also looking forward to the racing.
Yeah, there's about 250. That's correct, and there will be mixed emotions. But they'll, they've gotten over the excitement of yesterday, and once they get the excitement of this start, and they start to settle down into their watch systems, and their whole lives will just be revolve around the yacht and be encompassed by that. And that's one of the great things about long passage sailing is you tend to forget about everything in the outside world and concentrate on what really matters to you, which is what's happening on board. And those are the sea, the environment, and also your crew, your teammates. I'm just watching the fleet leave here now, and there's a couple of the yachts seem to have had a bit of trouble with their asymmetrics, and I'm just thinking that maybe there's been a slight wind shift out there, and in fact I can see some of the yachts hardening up now, coming up onto the breeze. I can feel the breeze freshening behind me as well, so if they're experiencing that down the race course, they're about from where we are about 1.5 miles downwind of where we are now. So some of the yachts have dropped their kites, and others are still flying. I just see old Pulteney though bringing up the rear, and they're definitely making up some ground. So I think the fresh breeze that is filling in from the west, they're getting that breeze first, and they're benefiting from it. So there's a lot happening out here. There's all the vagaries and the conditions, and sailing in the estuary like this, there's a lot of influence of the land on what the wind is doing as well. And I think it's those skippers that can see these shifts and of the wind and play the conditions and also play the tide well are going to be the ones that get out of the estuary first, and then round into the North Sea and round North Foreland.
And it is more of a marathon, I guess, than a sprint. And so, what is the key? Is it consistency? Is it getting lots of podiums? What is the trick to being successful out in this?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It is about consistency. It really is. If I predict now that if one yacht can finish always consistently in the top 5 in every single race, then they will probably end up winning the round the world race.
And I guess for those who have home ports, they will be also very eager to perform very well into those. I know that certainly the Qingdao boat, for example, will be very keen to be first into its own home port. There's something what we call a bit of a home port curse in the race, is that no matter how hard they try, invariably they're pipped at the post. And I remember last year one of the boats was literally pipped something like 30 seconds into its own home port, as it were, and it must be very very frustrating.
Yeah, I think the boat that you're referring to is Gold Coast Australia, that had a great run of races in the last race, and I think they ended up winning 12 of the races, and the rest of the races they had a podium finish. But yeah, they were pipped right at the post by Visit Finland. And that was a 1,500-mile race from Tauranga into Gold Coast, and for it to come down to a matter of seconds is just incredible. And it just goes to show just how tight this racing can be, and just what a great one-design fleet the Clipper fleet is. And I'm sure with the new fleet at Clipper 70s that tradition and that will continue. They are very, very closely matched, not just in their equipment, but also in the abilities of their crew.
And today you've been helped on the start line by the Benfleet Yacht Club and their race officer down here. How important is it in terms of the organisation of a start line to be able to get all the right facilities in place, if you like, to be able to mark that line and measure that start accurately?
Well, it's always great to have people who know what they're doing, and my thanks go out to Sue and John Hancock of Benfleet Yacht Club, who have assisted us with the race start. They've brought down their start cannons, which is always a bonus, and yes, it makes my job a lot easier when we have these type of people down with the right kind of experience. They've started many races here, and I just think it would have been remiss of us not to have brought down people that have that experience. You should never knock back people with local experience, and they certainly have it there at Benfleet Yacht Club. But I'd also like to thank the staff over at Queenborough, where the boats overnighted last night, particularly Marco Devereux and all his staff at the Queenborough Harbour Trust, who were very hospitable last night and made sure all our boats got alongside the moorings, and also assisted us in slipping the yachts this morning and making sure that they were here in the vicinity of Southend Pier in time for the start.
Now, you participated in one of the earlier races around the world. We've now got a new fleet of boats, the 70s. What difference do you think they're going to make to the experience of this round the world race?
Yeah, we do have this new generation of yachts, the Clipper 70s, and I think the main difference between them is that these yachts have bowsprits and fly asymmetric spinnakers or cuts, as opposed to flying a symmetrical spinnaker off of a spinnaker pole. It's a whole different discipline. Flying a symmetrical kite from a pole is it can be quite difficult, and there is quite a large and steep learning curve. With the asymmetrics, the boats will be faster, but because they cannot sail as deep on the wind, then they will have to cover more distance. But that should be offset by their increased speeds. I predict that the boats, and they've also shown in the test sailing and particularly some timings that we took in the Round the Arnhem race earlier this year, that they will be a minimum of 5% faster over the course of the Round the World race, and I'm expecting a bit more. But as more data comes in from each race, then we can build up a much better picture. But they're much faster boats. They've got an increased sail area. The shape of the hull, the design of the hull is different. They're a lot beamier aft with a flat transom. And this is just going to make the boats even faster. In training, when the boats weren't really being pushed too hard, we were getting reports of 27 knots of speed, and I know for a fact that these yachts are going to be in excess of 30 knots, particularly when they're surfing down large waves when they're mid-ocean.
And they were sort of British designed by Tony Castro, but really bringing on board a lot of the experience of the Clipper race in racing yachts to sort of really hone a design, I guess, based on the knowledge of the race team, Sir Robin Knox-Johnson, in what those boats need to do while they're out going around the world in such a challenge.
Yeah, there's a lot of experience in Clipper. Of course, we have Sir Robin, but we also have many staff who are race skippers, such as myself. So you get experience into the design as well. And it's not just about the design of the hull, but it's also about what type of rope you're using. It's about what type of deck gear you're using, the jammers, the winches, the coffee grinders, and the position of all of those as well. And so the experience of skippers that have done the race before, that can all be fed in and has been fed into the design of the new Clipper 70.
And you talk about the team there. We saw yesterday a very hard-working maintenance team. What is the challenge of commissioning a brand new fleet of boats like this? Because there are many and varied, I would have thought.
Yeah, there are many challenges in commissioning a new fleet of boats. But what we try to do is we try to identify issues with the earlier yachts that arrive with us, and then we take those issues and we find out what the fix is, and then we feed that information back into the boatyard, who can then rectify those problems right at the build, and then and before the boats are delivered for the commissioning. So certainly the first yachts that arrived, the commissioning process was measured in weeks or several weeks. And we could bring that commissioning period right down for the final yachts that arrived. But of course, the commissioning process involves putting in the masts and the boom and fitting the yacht out, etc. And really, they arrived from the boat builders just as the hull and the bare hull, and they didn't even have the keel on. So we were fitting the keel back in the UK as well.
Now, as we look out, we can see the fleet starting to spread out a little. How much separation would you tend to expect as the boats get into each of these races?
Well, certainly on a short sprint like this, I anticipate that all the yachts should finish within 12 hours of one another. I'd be surprised if they didn't. On longer legs, typically, if you're looking at a 5,000-mile race, then I typically expect a 4 or 5 day spread from first to last. but you have to have arrival windows for planning purposes, and as most people, or some people may not realise, that boats have they have destinations and not arrival times. So we are very much at the mercy of the wind and how fast the yachts go. So I expect them all to arrive in 12 hours for this one. But if we're going down to Rio, I expect there to be about a 3-day spread over the fleet. But I could be proved wrong, as we were in Gold Coast, and when 2 yachts finished within 30 seconds of one another.
Yeah. It's very hard to predict. And what sort of a challenge is it for the whole team as they have to go around the world receiving the boats, getting them ready and seeing off all those various starts around the world? And there is a big team that helps make that happen so those boats always leave on time.
Well, that's right. We have many different departments that make this whole thing work, and within Clipper, and that's not just the race office team, but also the maintenance team and our PR team and our media team, and all of which arrive at a stopover a couple of days before we anticipate the first arrival of the yachts, and of course it takes all parts of the organisation to make a successful race, really. The kind of challenges that we're looking at on the operational side, though, is typically a lot of the stopovers are just 7 days. And when the boats arrive, then the skipper will make sure that they do a deep clean, and they'll take everything off the boat and clean the boat right down into the bilges. But at the same time, we'll have the maintenance team on board, and they will be rectifying defects, etc. But when the yachts are at sea, they're always sending back what their defects are, and also what requisitions that they require. And so we can make sure that we can hit the ground running when we arrive in these destinations and just get on boats and get the jobs done that need to be done. However, as the skippers do, they have a lot of experience as well, obviously with fixing boats and rectifying defects, and many of those can be sorted out by themselves and by their crew.
And I guess as this transmission draws to a close, as we see the boats head off, Sir Robin was talking about the impact he hopes this race will have on the crew. What was your experience from your race and your crew?
My experience, well, there are so many, and I learned so much about myself and lessons that I still hold dear today. I think what these guys need to, the skippers, that they need to remember is to try and get the best out of their team, is to play to their strengths. There's so many different people on board with different ages and different skills and even different levels of fitness. And if they can identify where their strengths are and put those people in the correct positions and then manage the whole thing effectively, then they should do very well.
Yes, as you said, about 250 crew out there at the moment. About approximately a dozen crew on each boat will go around the world. Then the remaining places are for those who join for one or more legs. So throughout the course of the next 11 months, 670 people will sail the Clipper race. And all of them will be changed in one way or another. And we'll be following their stories throughout the course of the next 11 months and welcoming them back in July 2014. So from Southend Pier, our thanks to Sir Robin Knox-Johnston and Justin Taylor joined us this morning, and we leave you these pictures, and we'll continue to follow their journey around the world. Good morning.